It's been a while, but Roll for Crit is back to tell you everything that's been happening in the world of tabletop gaming. This will include the most recent news stories over the last week, as well as some Kickstarters I think look good, and those that are about to end. So without further ado, let's hit the news for the week of June 22nd, 2022. So earlier, the Spiel des Jahres for 2022 was announced. And while the main awards haven't announced their winners, we do know the winner for the Kinderspiel. That is the kid-based one. It is going to Magic Mountain. Apparently, it uses a marble mechanic in a really unique way. I have not played this. I don't usually play the Kinderspiel ones, but congratulations to them. Now, for the other games, I'll just quickly talk about since I didn't actually make a video talking about my thoughts on the nominees. So for the Spiel, we've got Cascadia, we've also got Scout, and Top 10. Now, Cascadia is the only one I've played out of these. I've heard Top 10 plays similar to Wavelength, which I do enjoy, but Wavelength exists. Now, Scout I haven't played, but it is Oink Games. I do enjoy those game series. I think they're very cute and fun. That said, I really enjoy Cascadia, so I can't help to lean towards that, even though it's the only one I played. I think it actually is a great game. Now for the Kinderspiel, this is for more of the advanced gaming ones. And for that, we've got Cryptid, which I'm surprised, I guess that just appeared over there overseas. I've been playing that one for a while. We've also got Dune Imperium, another deck builder that I've loved, and Living Forest. I feel bad for Living Forest. It looks really cute, but the other two games are ones that I love. That said, if I had to choose between the two, I know I'm going to make some people angry, but even though I love Dune Imperium, I love my builder games, I think Cryptid is actually a bit more interesting. I feel like there isn't a game out there that does something similar to it. I love the puzzle-solving nature and the clever way it makes it competitive, comparing trying to trick other people and get information from everyone else. So if I had to lean somewhere towards innovation, it's going to be Cryptid. But in terms of just, I think, streamlining the core mechanics in a way that is enjoyable and taking those mechanics to like really making sure that they're tight, I do think Dune Imperium does edge out there. I, once again, don't know Living Forest, but it's definitely up, at least to me, against some very tough competition. There have been some huge controversies involving Kickstarter over the last few months, involving shipping prices and, of course, dealing with everything that's been happening in the world. And one of the ways, of course, usually this is dealt with, besides government policy, is competition. Because one of the ways that can make things harder for many sites or companies is when there's another company that forces them to try to give more deals to the customers, usually making us the winner. Now, Kickstarter has been pretty much king in the world of board gaming. It really hasn't had much competition. A little while back, GameFound actually decided to throw their hat into the ring, and not only making it so there's more projects, but recently opening up to anyone to put on products there. Now it seems a new contender has come in, and that is Backerkit. I find it interesting that most of the people coming to rival Kickstarter are places where board gaming, crowdfunding projects were already going to, usually for the back end half of it. And they're like, well, why don't we also provide the front end? That way we can streamline it straight into this. They also announced quite a big project to start off with, and that's the Gloomhaven miniatures. We showed these off when we saw them back at PAX Unplugged, and I am sure this is going to be a great starter for Backerkit. The challenge is going to be, of course, if they can keep it up. This means a stream of projects, not just many, but some main big ones. Anyone who has browsed Kickstarter projects, while there's some great ones, there are plenty of ones on there that don't seem that they were thought through fully. I'm really curious to see how this goes, and of course, I do hope that all three succeed in a way that force them all to compete with each other, not only in trying to find better systems, upgrade their programming to make sure there aren't any issues and bugs, and overall, make sure it's a better place for the customer regardless of which site they go to. The Embracer Group, which bought Asmodee a little while back, has been trying to raise money and seems they've accepted a little over $1 billion from the Savvy Gaming Group. The reason this is a problem is the Savvy Gaming Group seems to be part of the Saudi Arabia sort of funding arm, and a lot of people are questioning whether this is okay considering some of the problems coming from Saudi Arabia, including the death of the reporter a few years back. The CEO of Embracer has released a letter to defend this choice, talking about how they want to remain independent and how they've accepted money from other places that could be considered non-democratic, I believe was the words he used. But it is an interesting take because a lot of people are worried because they don't feel that this keeps them actually independent. I think this also is a big deal as recently there was the similar issue involving golf tournaments when there is a new tournament being funded by Saudi. I believe it's in the UK that happened, and then the United Golf Federation in the US not disbanded. I believe they punished anyone who was a part of that competition. And of course, when people try to ask the golfers about it, who were in it, they seem to deflect and not really answer the questions. And I listened to a really interesting program talking about how this is all called sport washing, the idea of trying to seem more legitimate by funding sports. And this could be another way, though I think this more culture washing would be it, not straight up board games, because I don't think we're big enough quite yet that just because you appear in Monopoly that you think that gives you some kind of social credit. It is an interesting decision considering also the Embracer Group not being a very strict company, but just almost a conglomerate that owns a lot of things, not just Asmodee, but in fact, recently they bought a bunch of video game companies from Square Enix at, frankly, what I would consider probably a steal of a few million. So maybe this is to help fund those kinds of deals. We'll see how much this matters, not just for the Embracer Group, but for other places like the golfing tournament as well. Finally, one last story that just dropped today. Mantic has announced that they're going to have a price increase on their products. This is because of not only the cost to gain the materials to make their miniatures, but more importantly, and which makes sense for something that a company at least that has a lot of miniatures, the cost for shipping them. Now, this price hike is only going to go into effect starting August 1st. This means that you'll have some time to pick up whichever Mantic games or miniatures you would like at the current price, and in fact, they will be having a warehouse cleaning that will hopefully be able to get out some of their other products before this price hike happens. So if you enjoy any game from Mantic, now's the time maybe to look at buying that expansion or that army piece that you just didn't decide to buy yet. Now, I know one of my stories talking about how there are now multiple different companies helping with crowdfunding, but for now, it's time for us to head over to Kickstarter Pickstarter. The first one we gotta talk about, of course, is Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night City. This comes from Simon and has you take the role of one of the gangs fighting for territory amongst the city. Now, it seems that there are going to be story cards, so which might change how the game is played, which resources you need, and this makes it feel a bit more closer to what you might expect from this open world game series line, not simply just territory control, but something where the world can change and matter depending on the scenario. Now, the different gangs, of course, have different kinds of members, but you can hire plenty of named characters to join your group, and oh boy, are there, of course, a lot of them. It also seems to include V, the protagonist from the actual video game line, who seems to be also used if you want to play this game solo. I'm not sure exactly, however, if they are actually used and you control them, or if you're playing as a gang and V is going to be hopping around messing with you, similar to the BioShock board game based on the third game, where you did not play as Booker and Elizabeth, rather they were an independent force that would mess with both players as you played the game. Now, this game is already expensive, of course, heavy miniature game at $110, but the shipping is going to cost you quite a bit too. And after the whole issue involving Marvel Zombies, I'm sure many people are a bit maybe worried about the shipping, I would think. But it still has hit its funding goal, and I'm sure it will still do very well. Even with the problems that not only Simon, but also Cyberpunk has had, it's not enough to derail this company or this series. Another big game with miniatures I want to talk about comes from GameFound, and this one is based off the Umbrella Academy. This game has you play as the main characters, and you will try to fight villains, gather certain symbols and resources in order to unlock the final scenario in order to defeat the villain. It seems to also have some different story beats and ways that your characters may feud depending on who you choose. They seem to be challenges you're going to have to overcome or limit your own options while you're just dealing with an enemy who, of course, just wants to kill you. This game does come from Mantic, so with our last story, I'm very curious whether they have already included the supposed price hike for this game included. Now, this game has plenty of different villains, and I will mention that this seems to be based more off the comic series. I know that there is a TV show that seems pretty popular, and I believe the new season just dropped around today or around this week. So I'm curious whether that they stayed pretty close to storyline, or if you were introduced through the TV show, if the art style is confusing to you, or do you just are excited to see the characters you've watched on the show. The game is going for around $85 US, so cheaper than the previous one, but still on the expensive side for board gaming. Now, I want to talk about games that are ending on crowdfunding sites. The first one being Aeon's End Past and Future. This is, of course, part of the Aeon's End series. It's a game style and mechanic that I adore and love. So if you're into deck building at all, you really should check this out. You have probably about 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you watch this left. So keep that in mind. The other one comes from Steve Jackson Games. It's for two, titled Dragon and Jack-O-Lanterns. These are small micro dice games. Apparently they're from a magazine, and now they're going to have their own little fold-up poster and dice to still keep it very small. Hence, I believe they call it nano games. These small dice games from Steve Jackson I've enjoyed. The first one that actually comes to mind for me is the zombie one in which you are eating brains. So that one was really cute. And outside of the Yahtzee sort of cup it comes with, that one could easily be packed just as small. So I imagine these would be very similar, something quick, light, that you could pretty much carry with you anywhere without worrying about space. Now, this one should be ending very soon as this video is going to release. So you don't have much time if this sounds interesting to you. That is all we have for now. Thank you for coming back and watching us return to news. And let us know if any of these news stories are interesting to you, what your thoughts on them are. Of course, if there's anything we miss, is there something in the news that I did not see that should be talked about? Is there a Kickstarter or any crowdfunding project that you think is worth mentioning, whether it's something that's ending very soon or just came up? I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure we'll all see you in the comments down below. If you think anyone would be interested in this, please don't forget to share it with them, and I'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Until then, I'm Will Keeler, and this has been Roll for Crit.